Nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, I'm going to go to A&E today. Nobody knows. Nobody knows who it's going to be.
Paediatric trauma call, 15 minutes.
Code red, helipad response.
You're having a heart attack.
We want to be in and out of scan in the next 10 minutes.
I can't feel any pulse.
Any reception, can I help you? Yeah, 24 hours, 7 days a week. I love that question. What's your opening hours?
St George's, London, one of the busiest and most advanced A&E departments in the world.
Beautiful. It's as if we've done it before.
We are there when awful things happen to pick up the pieces.
We have a 2-year-old who's kicked by a horse.
We see the unpredictableness of what happens in life, and we're suddenly having to explain why it's gone wrong.
I can't feel my left leg.
You'll be okay.
A place where life,
Amy, Sophie!
Down below. Too slow.
love,
Such a good boy. So proud of you.
and loss
I'm still here.
unfold every single day.
So we don't shake hands at this hospital, we fist bump. Can I have a fist bump?
All the patients you're about to see were treated in just one 24-hour period.
Hello, darling.
You genuinely do see the best of people in this job. You'll see strangers rushing to the aid of someone they've never met. You just see things that make you realise just how important the people in your life are and the people around you are.
I'm looking for the miracle department.
The where?
Miracle department.
I don't think we have one here. I make miracles, though.
It must be me age, because these doctors look younger than ever.
Oh, Trouble, how are you doing? Hey!
It's 7:30 a.m. and Dr. Meyer is starting an 8-hour shift in resus, where the most seriously ill and injured patients are treated.
I grew up in Yugoslavia. When I got to UK, and I was 17, all of a sudden I traveled to another country on my own. That was my first airplane flight, actually, and I loved it. And that's when I decided I'm gonna live here. Because, you know, punk happened in London. Sex Pistols and Exploited, not that. And I used to play guitar in a band, but at the moment I only have a bass guitar and an amp, which I occasionally get out and play, but there's no time. Any fever, cough, or anything like that?
I've had a cough.
You had a cough.
Cold, yeah.
Anything juicy coming out, phlegm-wise?
No, just a little bit. Nothing juicy or...
Nothing nasty looking, sorry.
Nothing nasty.
When I started, it was like, oh my God, is my English good enough? Will they understand me? Everyone looked at me like, oh, yeah, that's what they are.
Worth saving.
Yeah, fine. So we need to swap his... No, I haven't been to the toilet yet. The adrenaline that you get in emergency department, that I love. I think it's the challenge, the pressure, the teamwork. That's me, like, bottom line, pretty much.
Ambulance service, where help required. She's a 1-year-old, she's been kicked in her head by a racehorse. Okay, is she breathing and conscious? Yes. And has she been bleeding red blood very heavily and nothing still? Yes.
Hello, señores.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Nearly two.
Kicking in the head by a horse.
Thank you, bye.
Pediatric, female, trauma, 15 minutes.
A 1-year-old girl is being airlifted to St George's after being kicked in the head by a racehorse.
Could you
activate the helipad response team, they need to be there in 15 minutes. Yeah, all right, thank you, bye.
Why are you running this trauma?
I'm running that trauma, yeah.
I'll get everything ready in the meantime, though, then.
Okay, so we have a child who was kicked by a horse, so it's a head injury with GCS of 11, coming with HEMS. Okay, guys, so who do we have? Did we get PICU? Did we get anyone?
We haven't got surgeons.
The conscious part of you needs to do those things, role allocation, covering the possible injuries. You guys are happy with your gear? You have everything there? Subconscious part of you is thinking, oh my God, what is it? Am I going to be able to cope with it? Do I need help?
I was in Tooting at the time of the accident, and I was at St George's before the helicopter had come. I'm standing outside A&E and looking up. I could hear it coming. Small little prayers in my head, please. She's got to be fine, hopefully.
They've landed, so they'll be here in a minute. We don't even have a trauma mattress, which is very useful.
I'll get it.
I'm doing it.
Mummy.
Okay, so we have anaesthetist, we have peds.
Yeah, we haven't got the surgeons.
After fainting at the scene of the accident, Daisy's mother wasn't able to travel in the helicopter, so she's been brought to St George's by her step-granddad.
Lorraine, can you get some ketamine out of the cupboard?
Yep.
Ketamine, please. Yeah, thank you.
Would you get it for me? Would you? Kevin, I've got Dad here.
Yeah.
Hey, lovely. Hello.
Here we go.
Look, Daddy's here.
Okay. Right, everyone ready for the handover?
Yeah.
This is Daisy. She's 2 in August. She was outside the house where there were horses, and it's presumed that she was kicked by a horse. She's got a laceration above her left eyebrow, but she has had an altered GCS, so that's a GCS of 11. She's had 1 milligram of ondansetron. She's had 200 milligrams of paracetamol. The primary diagnosis is that she has those injuries and a concussion. I guess a period of observation to see whether she has an intracranial injury or not.
Okay, and what time was it roughly?
Probably in the last hour.
You're just thinking about the injury that this child may have, and then you're thinking the effect that injury may cause for the rest of her life. What are her pupils doing?
She's just not wanting to open her eyes, is she? You can see, yeah, she's just keeping her eyes shut.
So Dad, what's going to happen now? We're going to give her some medication to make her a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
And then we'll take her for the scan, because we need to scan her head, make sure that the head is fine. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine,
yeah.
When the phone call come through, all I was told that she's got a very bad gash to her head. She's losing quite a bit of blood. I knew that it would be serious.
It's 5 centimeters, is it roughly? And there is, no, she needs scan.
Due to the severity of her injuries, Daisy will be taken to CT for an urgent scan of her brain.
Anyone being injured or, dying from their injuries is horrible, and it's very scary. But actually, if it's a child, it has an extra scariness to it, because, they've just started their life. So I'm just gonna go to CT. So guys, the plan is CT, and then after we come back, we can do blood and stuff like that.
1-year-old Daisy has been brought to St George's by air ambulance after being kicked in the head by a racehorse.
No, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. You be with her. She needs you with her. Daddy's here. Daddy's here, Daisy.
Mummy's on her way.
CT, please.
Daisy is being taken for a scan so that doctors can assess the underlying damage to her skull and brain.
Guys, would you be happy if Dad stays here leaded? Yeah, good. So Dad, we're gonna give you lead again so you can hold her hand, yeah? On 3.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, she's so cute.
Hello. Hello, Daisy. Can I hold her hand? And
Yeah, Dad, please. We're just gonna scan her head and neck. Yeah. You happy with that to stay, yeah?
Daisy's big love was horses. Always wanted to help out with the girls in the yard, mucking out haylage. She always wanted to be around the horses.
Mummy's on her way.
Daisy's mum, Georgie, is on her way from the scene of the accident at the family-run racing stables in Sussex.
We had just come down to the stables. I was making a feed up and didn't realise any of the horses were out. Daisy was helping me and she wandered off for a minute. Then I heard a weird noise and I could see her through the fence. There was blood all down her face and her whole forehead was split open.
Forehead. I'm still thinking whether we should scan neck or not.
Do it. I think because she didn't like her head going to the side.
Yeah. Our brains are really, really vulnerable and any sort of trauma affects it. She was just under 2 years old. Her bones are still fairly soft. That's your main concern. Is she going to have a big bleed that will affect her? No, that's true. Having a bleed around your brain causes pressure. Our skull is an enclosed box. The pressure builds up and pushes the brain down, and obviously that can cause death. Let's have a picture. I'm sorry.
Love you, darling.
Just the feeling of just laying there, motionless, not shouting out Daddy or being the way she was. That was my little girl, I felt, and it was gutting.
My little princess.
All right, are we done? Yeah? All right, let's get her out.
All done, Dad. They'll just be looking at the pictures and we'll know in a few minutes, okay?
She's really sweet.
So, yeah, I'm gonna have a look at it, but I don't think it's broken though.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
54-year-old Mike has come to A&E after falling face first and cutting his chin. He's waiting to see specialist nurse Prav.
Hi.
I'm from maxillofacial surgery.
So, can I just ask you what happened?
I had a seizure. I have epilepsy, and I first started having seizures in about 96, and I just fell. So I'm taking regular medication.
And what are you on?
Right.
So 1,500 milligrams.
Twice daily, yeah.
And what triggers it? How often do you have it?
Impossible to say.
It's okay.
Basically, it's always been uncontrolled, totally.
Okay. And before you have your X-ray, I'm just going to quickly examine you. The reason that head bandage are on you is because is it dropping down?
I think it was more just as a way of dealing with... It's alarming people in...
Okay.
I'm just letting my wife know, because she'll come into... And...
Any?
Yeah.
I think we'd been going together about a month when he told me he'd had epilepsy. I think he was quite nervous about telling me, actually, because a lot of people get a bit weird about epilepsy and they get a bit strange about it.
Just lift your tongue up.
When I first saw him have a seizure, it was quite scary because he's glaring very hard at you and staring and not reacting in any way to anything I said.
Let's have a look.
I'm quite used to it now. If he's here and we have friends round and he has a seizure, I'm afraid we all just carry on talking. And wait for him to come back, really. We just let him sit in the corner somewhere and mumble to himself.
Yeah, so yeah, it's not, when I'm going like that, it's not my throat that's hurting, it's the action that here makes when you swallow. I haven't eaten all day. I've just been able to, I can barely swallow to drink water.
I've requested 2 X-rays for the jaw, and based on that, if it's broken, we will have to probably admit you for an operation. But I will need to have a look at the X-ray first.
Epilepsy it's just like the part of your brain just switches off. You're 1 minute you're there, you're totally in the moment, and the next bit, then you're just gone.
Okay, can you see?
It's so uncertain. I never know when it's going to happen.
Go to the blue sign, turn right, and introduce myself.
Yes.
I didn't know how to cope, and nobody wanted to sort of take me on, but then, of course, Alison came along. I think she was prepared to take on what being with me involved.
My little princess.
It's been just under an hour since 1-year-old Daisy arrived in resus.
Yeah.
Dr. Maya is waiting for the results of a CT scan to assess the damage to her neck, skull and brain.
So there's no sort of like bleeding or anything or anything?
I will get Maya just to have a quick word with you.
I always wanted a child. I always wanted to be a dad. Daisy was meant to be due at the end of July. We were waiting, we were hoping she was going to be early because we were looking forward to her and we wanted her out as soon as possible.
Oh, isn't she? And I don't think she's not 15. And then just use the same.
You're going to be okay.
She was 2 weeks over, but as soon as she was born, I was proud as anything. I was really happy.
Love you, darling.
Daisy's grandparents have arrived in A&E after a 38-mile drive. Daisy's mum is still en route after fainting at the scene of the accident.
You right there, you right? No, yeah, no, I'm fine, thank you. Thanks, sir.
Oh, don't be silly.
There's Nanny.
Hello, Daisy.
Nanny's come to see you.
We got all the horsey stuff, didn't we, Daisy?
Granddad's here as well. He's come to see you. Love you, darling. You're going to be okay.
Pneumocephalus, intraparenchymal bleed.
Oh, man.
You sort of learn not to get emotionally involved, but I don't think I've had a day of a shift that I've gone home and didn't think about at least a patient. So breaking bad news is always a challenging situation. and just try to think, okay, if it was me, what I would like to hear. I think that's more human.
At the moment, what we are dealing with is neck spine. She has fractures of the skull going around there. It is extending into the walls of the eye socket where the eyeball sits.
Saying about the eye socket, is there any? Are you worried about her eyesight in that eye?
Well, we do not know as yet what's happening, but we're gonna get ophthalmology to have a look at her as well and assess her from eye point of view. There is a little bruise to the brain, which needs to be observed to see whether that develops any further into a bit more blood or not.
I know they were right, there's no internal bleed or anything like that, it's just bruising, is it, to the end?
Well, there is a little bit of a bleed in the actual brain, which is like a bruise, yeah.
But the bruising to the brain, that's not serious or nothing, or...
We need to observe her. We do not know. Some small percentage of them becomes bigger over time. That's why we need to keep her in. Do you guys have any questions?
No, it's just yeah, it's a matter of time, and just waiting to see if everything's okay.
Yeah.
Look after Rosie.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. All right? Pop your back. It's okay. They're incredibly resilient, little ones, okay? They're really strong and resilient, okay?
It's just a shock.
Of course it is, absolutely.
No va a correr cuando lo llamen, ¿no? Se va a levantar despacio y va a coger esto y se va a ir despacio caminando. Pues yo no lo voy a llevar en esto. ¿Entendido?
All right, I take a seat.
It's been 90 minutes since Mike arrived at St George's after having an epileptic seizure and falling on his face. Specialist nurse Prav is examining his X-ray to assess the extent of the injury to his jaw.
Okay, it's broken in 2 places, yeah? 1 and 2. So, you know, we need to keep you in, then operation tomorrow.
Right.
Okay? It needs to be fixed.
Okay.
All right. Okay, I will give you some steroid and you know, that should help with the swelling.
Hello? My wife has just arrived. May I just go out and...
Yes, of course.
Mike and I met on an online dating site about 10 years ago. We got married in July 2013.
Go this way.
I remember standing outside the church with my father and 4 bridesmaids waiting to go up the steps, and somebody drove by in a white van and shouted, "Don't do it, love!"
So my jewellery's broken in 2 places.
Oh, sweetie. It was a pretty traditional wedding. I walked up the aisle and Mike was standing there, and he turned to me and said, "That's a lovely dress. Can we keep it?" I was, yeah. It was a proper wedding dress, but it was quite a plain, ivory, quite tight-fitted, very straightforward dress. I thought I was a bit old for the full meringue, you know.
Oh, that's me. Yes, Mother. Do you want to talk to him? He's here. No, he doesn't want to talk. No, it hurts too much. He doesn't want to talk. I will. Bye.
I'm not being it's just very...
Yes, it's okay, I know, it's all right. Well, I suppose I grew up assuming I'd have children, but, you know, I never found the right man until it was a bit late. Have you had them yet?
No, I can't swallow. I told him I'm not...
What are you The epilepsy's always been there as long as I've known him, so it's hard to say what it would be like without the epilepsy. Was that sneezing?
No.
Don't sneeze.
Swallow.
Oh, God. Sometimes I just don't want to let him out of my sight, but obviously, you know, he has to go to work, he has to have a life.
Filling the toilet.
Yo no sé cómo va a ir. Mucho cuidado con esa, no vaya a lastimar a nadie.
Ay, ay, ay. I should have bought a belt, man.
Jaime la va a traer cuando... Ay, Philly, please, be careful. God, that scared me. This...
St George's recess. Okay. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Bye. Adult thrombolysis call, ETA 15 minutes.
A 100-year-old woman is being rushed to St George's with a suspected stroke.
Is that for real? Is that her age?
Yep.
She was screaming, crying, and then I started getting really, really worried that, you know, something had gone really badly wrong. Then went and rang 999.
Florence has been brought to St George's by her 68-year-old daughter, Frances.
1, 2, 3.
Doctors need to act quickly to find out the cause of Florence's condition.
What's her name?
It's Florence. She's 100 years old.
Yeah.
Her left side has been en route a bit droopy, and the daughter had a good look at her, said that's not normal for her.
The left or the right?
The left a bit. She was able to smile.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Florence. My name's Elizabeth. We're all part of the stroke team here, okay? So I'm going to examine you quickly, okay? Because we want to get a scan of your head. Lift this arm up in the air for me. Excellent. Lift this arm up in the air for me now. Well done.
Mum was born during the First World War in 1915. She was the youngest of a family of 8. A huge family that was very, very close.
Squeeze really, really hard for me. Really, really hard.
When she met my dad, she wasn't attracted to him at all. And he just persisted and persisted. And in the end, she married him.
Fantastic. Can you keep that up?
And they did everything together.
Just this one. Keep it up there. Can you keep it up there?
My father was a handyman around the house. But after he died, I found little messages everywhere of how things worked. You know, for the water tap, this is what you do, and this is the key you use.
Okay.
They loved each other very, very much.
Okay, I'm just going to check your blood pressure again. Keep your arm nice and relaxed for me.
In the 50s and 60s, Mum had this job at an off-licence in the Elephant and Castle, which was, one couldn't say it was a salubrious area. The main customers in this particular off-licence were what were then the meth drinkers. But my mother stood no nonsense. A very, very feisty character. You don't get to 100 without that strength, really, that inner strength.
Hiya, Florence. I've just come to take a quick chest X-ray for you, if that's all right. Can you tell me your date of birth, Florence? Your birthday.
11th of March.
That's fine, Florence. That's okay. So what we're going to do...
Mum started showing signs of needing a bit of help. It's when she was about 96, 97. Wow. See you in a minute.
Okay, X-ray day 3.
I'd got this call from a neighbour that she'd been rushed into hospital. And that's when Mum's sort of real dementia, I think, started.
Florence is being taken for an urgent CT scan of her brain to see if she's suffered a stroke.
Yeah. Annie? Hi, it's Marwan, the Annie Regis. I have a child who was hit by a horse in the head, has underlying skull fracture, and has significant laceration of probably 6 centimeters over the left forehead, which is full thickness, obviously.
1-year-old Daisy's CT scan results have revealed a fracture in her skull and a bruise on her brain after she was kicked in the head by a racehorse.
You get bruising on the brain, it needs to be monitored because it can turn into a proper bleed later on.
She's more awake now, but she's still quite drowsy. So you'll come. Okay, thank you, bye.
Daisy's mum, Georgie, is still on her way from the family stables in Sussex. It's been over 2 hours since she last saw her daughter.
Georgie's freaking out.
As soon as Mum comes, we'll get somebody else to come and have a chat
Yes,
to her and everything.
Just telling her.
No,
the thing is, as soon
absolutely.
as I said to her mum about there's a fracture.
She needs to see her. Part of my job isn't just looking after the sick child, it's looking after the family. If you can just take a tiny bit of that worry away, you're doing your job. I don't think there's anything you can say that's going to make her feel better. So we just need her here and she can see her.
She's on her way.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right, lovely, thank you.
No worries at all. My 2 boys have often said, I must be a terrible nurse. Because when they come to me and they say, I've got a headache or I've got a sore throat, I just say, you're fine, go to school. But when I know that there's a trauma call coming in and it will say unknown, I will just walk through resus just to check it's not one of my children. Silly, really, I know. But I don't know if that will ever change. Hello. Have you just woken up? Hello, sleepy girl.
It's okay.
Daisy is waking from the effects of her initial concussion. The medical team are closely observing her condition for any deterioration.
Yeah, Mama. She's on her way, darling.
You're being so brave.
In the car, I was thinking she could come out not being able to ever walk again from it. That was, the thought of it just couldn't deal with it.
She is.
Mummy's here,
She's on her.
Daisy.
It's Mummy.
When I walked in and saw her, I just wanted to grab her, but I couldn't. She was just laying there helplessly, and it was horrible to see her like that.
Now she wakes up.
She wants to see George.
Oh no, I'm here. I'll stay with
It's okay,
you.
darling. We're here, darling.
Mummy's here. Mummy's here. Mummy's staying with you, I promise.
Yeah, babe.
Yeah. I'm here,
It's
I'm
all right.
not going anywhere. Mummy's here. Mummy's here. Yeah? We'll lay here together. Yeah. Do you want to her to sit on your knee? Yes, yeah. Please. Do you want to give your mummy a cuddle? Come here, fat girl. There you go. There you go. That's what you needed.
Are you okay, Princess? You're such a brave girl.
Holding her and being there, because I just felt so awful accepting what had happened. I was thinking she could be brain damaged from this, and there's no turning back. You can fix a break, you can fix a fracture, but if she's brain damaged, that 2 minutes I've let her out of my sight and this has happened, I felt like I failed her.
Oh, sweetie.
Good girl, Daisy.
All right, gorgeous girl.
Having children doesn't make you a better nurse, it just makes you a different nurse. I think you're aware of, how things can change, how fragile everything is. There's always some children that you will never forget. It was in my last job, it was a boy who was hit by a 4x4. He didn't survive. And I think about it all the time, and I still see his face. And I can still remember his name. And I don't think I'll ever forget him, because he was the same age as my son was at the time. And it was horrible, and I've never forgotten that fear. I can still see him now, and I can still see my son. Yeah, so, sorry.
There we go, darling.
Daisy is being moved to paediatric intensive care, where her brain injury will be closely observed, prior to surgery to close the wound on her forehead. 100-year-old Florence has dementia and arrived at St George's with a suspected stroke. Doctors have ordered a CT scan of her brain to assess the damage.
She's reached a wonderful age.
Hasn't she? She never thought that she was going to get to 100, but in the run-up to her 100th, you could tell that she was really getting into it. Have you got whiskey and gin? And I said, well, Mum, actually, people are not drinking that these days, because she was going back to when she used to organise parties. But she had a fabulous day, started at 10:30, and at 8:45, 8 o'clock, the last people said that they were thinking they had to go, and she said, it's a bit early to finish, isn't it?
When? Where? Where are you going to sleep? We don't know yet, Mum. All right.
One of the things that is very difficult is that when your mother has been so vital for so many of her 100 years, that when you see that vitality seeping out, it is difficult to accept.
You're speaking very softly, and you haven't got your teeth in. It's difficult to understand you.
Whenever I was ill, I used to have a problem with my ears, and they used to ache incredibly, incredibly badly. And she used to sit there and just cup her hand and just breathe into my ear and make it all better. And just gently stroke my arm.
Dr. Elizabeth has received Florence's CT scan results.
Would you like to come with me just for a minute?
Yes.
There's some thinning of the brain generally, which is something we see quite commonly with as we get older. Okay.
Yes, 100 years old, you can't.
Well, she's absolutely amazing, considering her age. And there's nothing here to suggest that she's had a stroke. I think she's obviously been very anxious.
I think it would be better if she stayed.
That's my feeling, but I just wanted to make sure that you were in agreement with that. Let me tell her about her scan. Okay, Florence. Everything is looking good from our end, okay? I think you're just a little bit unwell. Yeah, we need to work out why you're unwell. Would you be okay to stay in with us?
Life changes. When you're caring for your mother, you actually change roles. And part of that transition is grief for losing the person that was, but is still here.
Okay. All right, that's very good.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got cold nose. God, it's cold. I think it is easier to accept a physical frailty than a mental frailty. Yes, you can accept somebody not being able to walk so well, but you think the brain will always keep going. But that sadly isn't the case.
Florence will be sent to a ward for a period of observation.
Hi.
Hi, Philip.
Arriving.
Yeah.
How are you? I'm fine, Jack. I'm just going to give you some medication, okay?
Uh-huh.
Mike is being given painkillers and will be kept in overnight before surgery to his jaw.
He doesn't like needles.
That's right. Oh. No, I'm not lucky.
Don't be such a scaredy cat. Did you see this text about an interview invite for clinical support worker at Camden and Islington NHS? He works with people with mental health problems. I think that's very important to him. He says that having epilepsy has given him more empathy with the people he works with.
So you should feel a bit better after all that, okay?
Thank you.
But he's lost work because of he's had epilepsy. He'll work somewhere for a couple of months, he'll have a seizure, and then he'll never hear from them again. It just seemed very, very unfair to us.
People do insist that they understand epilepsy, yet when they see it, what it actually involves, they are spooked by it.
Further to your application for the above position, I'm very pleased to inform you've been selected for interview.
Is it on the NHS website?
Camden and Islington NHS Foundation Trust.
Well, I've got to go.
The epilepsy's made it harder financially for us, certainly. And then there's always the risk that he's going to have a seizure when we're out and about. Because he's very vulnerable when he has a seizure. And I'm not sure I could cope with it myself, but he seems to have a very philosophical take on it. He seems to deal with that very well.
Right, Michael, your bed's ready up on the ward.
Okay, right.
So do you want me to come out with you to the ward? Make sure you're all tucked in. Right.
I'm sure you'll sleep after that day anyway.
Oh, blimey, it's been a long, long day.
Yeah.
I don't spend a lot of time missing what I don't have. I really do spend as much time as I possibly can enjoying what I've got and realising that that is what life is about.
With that injury, with that force, I mean, I think an adult person would have been lucky to have those injuries, let alone a child who has only tiny head and only tiny soft bones and really vulnerable brain.
Daisy now is loving life. She can't remember a thing from it. She loves horses more than ever. She's still strong-willed and independent as she was before.
She was definitely lucky.
I'd like to activate the helipad.
So this is Cyril, he's a 91-year-old male, a driver of a car that was T-boned on the driver's side.
She said, "It's very bad." My daughter said, "You better stay here, Mum."
It's like your artery is going to spasm and looks like you're having a heart attack.